Well, welcome back to Elfster's Rifles and Reloading, Part 3 of this PSA AK-47 review. And if you haven't seen the first two parts of this series, I highly recommend rewinding and watching those first two parts of this series before watching this part. In essence, all that we're going to do is sight in the iron sights on this PSA AK-47. Now, in this part of the series, this is just my way of sighting in iron sights, at least for an AK-47. But if I was to give you a recommendation of another YouTube channel to check out for sighting in an AK-47, I highly recommend heading over to the AK Operators Union. There's a vast amount of knowledge on there on the AK and sighting in iron sights for the specific rifle. Now, this is just the way I sight in my AK-47 for its iron sights. I'm not saying this is what you should do, this is just what I do. Especially when I shoot this particular rifle at the range, usually it's between 50 to 100 yards. I might go out to 200, but it's going to be pretty rare. Especially for deer hunting, at least in the good old Wisconsin woods here, it's going to be pretty rare to take a shot over 200 yards. Now, just like in my previous two parts, I believe in part 1, I kind of went over the ballistics of this particular 7.62 by 39. And for me, at least I like to do a 50-yard zero. It zeroes out at 50, has a little bit of an arc, about 1 inch over, about 100 yards. And it starts to re-zero at roughly about 175 to 200 yards. At least for me, it's setting the rear sight at its battle zero or P. I particularly like to do a 50-yard zero. There really is no right or wrong, it just depends on your application. But like I said before, if you want more of a typical method of sighting in an AK-47, I highly recommend heading over to AK Operators Union and checking their videos out. So let's head down to the 50-yard mark and check out my sight that I'm particularly using to get this sighted in. Okay, so we're at the 50-yard mark here. I personally like to use a 4-inch by 4-inch square with a little bit of a black line underneath the square. Now, why 4x4? The reason why is roughly 4 to 5 inches. That square is the exact same width as your front post. And by doing that, you can make sure that your rifle is being zeroed on the windage and also on the elevation by using the black line. Now, that's at least for what I like to do. Your methods might differ, but I find this works out the best for me. Also, I like to use red. You'll notice in my previous videos, if I have a black crosshair or black front post, I like to use red. And you'll also notice when I'm shooting my red dots, my targets will be black. That contrast between the two works perfect. Let's take our first shots. Well, surprisingly, looks like PSA already has this sighted in pretty darn good for 50 yards. I would say I have to adjust this to the left just a smidge, maybe up just a little bit, but not much. But wow, I even touched these iron sights from the factory, and I'd say that's pretty darn impressive. So let's adjust these just a little bit, and we'll keep on going. So first and foremost, let's make sure that our rifle is empty, it is on safe. Now, at 50 yards, I would say I'm hitting a little low and to the right. It's not much. Actually, I'm quite surprised that came out of the box this accurate, which is nice. Good job, PSA. Now, if you're hitting low, in this particular example, you're going to want to screw clockwise or down, righty-tighty. You're going to want to screw that post down in order for your point of impact to go up, as in this example at 50 yards. Also, I'd say we're a little bit to the right. It's not much, but just a little. We need to adjust our point of impact to the left. So if we are right on the target, we're going to want to push our post to the right. as viewed from the back side of your rifle in order to make the point of impact go to the left at 50 yards. You know, obviously it'd be the opposite of that. If we were hitting high, you'd want to counterclockwise screw so that this post goes up in order to lower the point of impact down at 50 yards. And if we were hitting to the left at 50 yards, we'd want to adjust our post to the left in order to make our point of impact go right at 50 yards. It really is that simple. Okay, so being that our point of impact is a little low, and is down, we're gonna screw the post down in order to increase the point of impact up at 50 yards. So in order to get this front post to go down, we're gonna screw righty-tighty, and it's not gonna take much in this situation. It'd just be a little bit. Also, we're hitting a little bit to the right. And like I said, it's not much. It's not gonna take much to adjust this. So if it's hitting to the right, we're gonna push this post over to the right in order for the point of impact down at 50 yards to adjust to the left. And in this situation, it's not going to take much. All right, let's take 3 more shots here. Okay, so I'd say our elevation is pretty much perfect. You know, I might raise that point of impact just a little bit by screwing that front post down just ever so slightly, but it's not going to take much. It looks like I kind of overcompensated on pushing that front post to the right in order for the point of impact to shift left. So I'm going to have to ever so slightly nudge that front post to the left in order for my point of impact to be more to the right on center. And before I do that, I'm going to just quick mark these just so I know which ones are which. We'll go back and make those fine adjustments. All right, so our rifle is clear on safety. So I would say our point of impact is still kind of low, a little bit. So we're going to screw down. By screwing down, it increases our point of impact going up. And I think we overcompensated. We're hitting too far left now. So we're going to push this front post to the left in order for the point of impact at 50 yards to shift right. Now when I do this, it's not going to take much. It's ever so slightly. Okay, so it looks like our elevation's still about the same. I think we could adjust it up just a smidge bit more. It looks like I really didn't push that front post over enough for the windage. Looks like it moved just a little bit. So yeah, we'll go back. We'll make those fine adjustments.
All right, so we're gonna screw this down just a smidge bit more.
I feel like I'm shooting on a bench of ice here. Well, I would say that is pretty darn good, and I think that is definitely what I would call battle effective. Looks like I think we have one here, and most likely around here. That could just be me shooting. But you know, I think for being battle effective and definitely for deer vitals, that is suitable for me. So I think I'm going to stick with that, and we're going to run a couple of shots with iron sights at 100 yards. Oh, one thing's for sure is these iPhones do not like 19-degree weather. The batteries die instantly. Now you notice at 100 yards, I made my square 8x8 twice the size of the 4x4 at 50 yards. Simple math. Okay, so it's not too bad for 100 yards, iron sights. You know, 1, 2, 3, that's roughly about, 3.5, 4-inch group there. You know, it's a little low and to the right. You know, that very well could just be me, but it's definitely obviously in the red square, and I'd say that's obviously combat effective and would definitely put down a deer in the vitals. So, you know, I can make some more fine tuning, but I think you guys pretty much get the gist of what's going on here. And yeah, not too bad. Well, I warmed myself up along with my iPhones because they're going dead in this cold weather. But anyway,
Before I head out here, I just wanted to rehash lining up your front post along with your rear iron sight, especially if you're new to the game with an AK-47. This black square would be your front post, this would be your rear, and just obviously lining that up flush with the top, and I set my red square on top of my front post. It's simple as that. And just to rehash your adjustments on your front post or windage and elevation, if your point of impact is hitting to the right, you want to adjust that front post windage to the right. You want to physically push that to the right so that your point of impact adjusts to the left towards center. If you're hitting to the left, you want to push that front post windage to the left so that your point of impact adjusts to the right. And also, if you're hitting low, you want to screw clockwise, righty-tighty, that front post down towards your impact, so when you take your shots, they're adjusting up. And obviously, if you're hitting high, you want to unscrew counterclockwise your front post towards the impact, so when you do take your shots, you're adjusting that point of aim more towards the center. And it is that simple. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'm gonna go warm up.